So I needed more space. And I remember after I said it, I was like, I don't know if there's anything else that needs to be said. You seem so sure in your delivery. And so I walked away and I took space. It was after the fact that really was the dark times for me, with no real conclusion, no resolution, no really I think it was maybe one of the most incredible, profound moments of my life, because it was the first time that I was forced to sit there and deal with something and find closure. I don't know if I had ever found closure to any relationship ever without the other person being there. It had always been a joint experience. And I found closure with some, not with others, even though I may have wanted it. But this one, I was solely on my own. And that's probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. Because it forced me in that moment to own it. I think there are times in our lives that maybe not exactly where we become a man, but I think there are moments like that for me that were huge building blocks to me owning, being responsible for some of the actions that I made, or maybe even some of the things I didn't do. So really, my breakdown after that was almost ceremonial, saying goodbye to the man that I was, a letting go of the man I was to become the man that I want to be, and how I want to show up for partners in the future, and how I want to have others feel an incredible amount of safety and love and compassion from me moving forward. And it was a huge pivotal moment for me. Looking back, of course, only looking back can I see that the thing that I thought derailed my life was the thing that put me on track. I feel huge, obligatory, incredible, beautiful opportunity to now go out into the world and say, I was broken because of certain patterns that existed within myself and certain actions, and I had to figure out how to piece myself back together. And I was fortunate to come across something that worked for me. And now my mission is to spread that, just in the slight opportunity that it might work for others.
Oh man, thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for being so present.
Wow. I can feel the energy of that moment, and I'm sure everybody listening, I know, just reflecting my own experiences of that feeling, like the rug being ripped out from under you and the void that's created in the chaos that ensues, and the trying to find some resemblance of stability within that chaos, and the downward spiral that can happen, and the unwinding, and the grief, and the depth of the grief. And it's really the freedom from that is found in the feeling of it. And I think a lot of times we are not taught in our culture and our society how to feel and how to properly grieve and process those emotions, and we push them down, or we numb out with alcohol or drugs or food or travel or anything, with work. And being able to access and go into those feelings and process them is such a, if not the most powerful tool for healing. So talk about the darkness that ensued, and then the light that you found, and the ability to access those emotions maybe in a way you never have, and how it sparked this inspiration for what you're doing now.
Yeah, thank you. I come from a golf background where it is so traditional to push things down. Not right now, later. Things are exchanged in whispers. It's tradition. And you're around a lot of other men that don't want to look weak in each other's eyes. And sensitivity is seen as that, especially in this Western culture, especially on the PGA Tour. So I come from that environment, and I have been conditioned to think that I'm tough because I haven't really felt anything, processed anything. And this kind of incident took me to a depth I have not known, never experienced. And I call it a gift because it really is to feel those lows. It's the only way to really project yourself into life and feel the highs. But, it was very dark. It was almost as if I was tuning into a frequency of not my own. It was as if there are always channels that are playing by the universe, and some are deeply embedded in despair. Some are like joyfully elated in highs of emotion, and you're able to fluctuate and tap into these different frequencies. And I was on a radio station where most of the discussion was about self-worth, not being worth anything. Your identity doesn't matter. You don't matter. It's shocking to hear those thoughts have really never entered my mind very often. If they were very fleeting and I didn't pay much mind to them. But I was tapped into this radio station to a place where I was starting to say them myself. It became almost like a mantra for me. Even though I tried a ton of different tactics and techniques and everything I knew and was resourced enough to reach out and try. I spent about 2.5 months in bed. I did some drugs. I woke up in some strange hotel rooms. I was finding myself in a world that exists every day for some, and I merely was fortunate enough to only have to visit. 2.5 months or so, I laid in my bed. I found myself struggling with my own identity, my own sexuality. Everything was questioned. Every single decision of my life was being thrown on the table and almost looked at whether or not that was truly me. And I was so fortunate. I actually had someone, and it was Gabriel Writer, that happened to be crossing my paths at that exact same time in my life. And he held me actually for the majority of those nights. I stayed at his place. Slept on his couch most of the time, but there's sometimes I stayed in his bed and he just held me while I cried for hours. And I look back on those moments and I'm like, this is how I was when I had someone to hold me, when I had someone to support me. It's I don't know how personally people make it out of that. I was there's no way I can find a way out of this. But Gabe also had heard of a guy named Steven Jaggers who had just completed some kind of breathwork certification, and he had called it somatic release. And Gabe was that's kind of emotional release. I think it would be advantageous for you to go. Plus, if you bring 2 people, you get a discount. You gotta love Gabriel, because he, although he's holding me and he's there with me, he's not experiencing it with me. He can find the humor in it even when I couldn't. That was a good thing. Mm-hmm. That was a good thing. And so that would be the direction. I would head to a breathwork session, an individual breathwork session with Steven Jaggers. I don't know him, so I do put a camera in the corner and I actually hit the record button, safety purposes. And I literally watch, because I don't know what's going to transpire. I have no idea. I've never been privy to any probably of the healing arts. Breathwork's a foreign actually word to me. And I'm in this realm.
You've done ayahuasca. I mean, you're familiar.
So it's shocking to me.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, I look back on that video from time to time. Holy shit. It almost looked like an exorcism in some regard. I was going through something so deep, so heavy, and so hard. I'm almost witnessing in some way my own death. At least the death of the person that I was showing up as well as the loss of my confidant. So what is life but an opportunity to really like build and cultivate a relationship with things that you'll lose? And that's exactly what happened. I experienced this breathwork session. I released a lot of just, truthfully, anger. I remember in the moment being like, and I was asking Steven. Steven was kind of giving me some prompts around what was going to happen. He was setting the container. And I remember saying something along the lines like, well, this is what happened to me. I'm not angry at her. I don't hold any ill feelings. I remember saying that. And I'll never forget. He's like, you should be angry. And I probably think that that's probably the first time that anyone gave me like permission to like feel like the depths of what I was feeling, not necessarily like feeling the superficial things, like the sensations that happen, but like really the deep down stuff that no one else I wanted anyone to see, or like that they would be okay with seeing. And so as a man who's seen like 94 countries, I have a man across from me saying like, hey, actually, whatever you feel, you're going to get permission to feel that, no matter what that is. And that's the first time I ever had that experience. I say to this day, it is like the greatest gift I've ever received. Somebody saying that you have permission to feel what you feel in front of me without me judging you. For all the things that I've experienced and for all the places I've gone, for someone to say that and give me something I've never had before. And I think that this business, if we want to call it that, this movement is really that. It's actually not breathwork as much as it is a place where you're going to get to feel what you meant to feel, but no one else really allows you to. And you're going to get to feel it fully. And you're going to be allowed to complete the cycle of feeling. To this day, it still remains like my greatest gift I've ever received. Really special.